You walk into the room and nothing feels dramatic. People are talking, some are relaxed, some are distracted. It feels ordinary. And that is the point. Predators do not hunt in chaos. They hunt where things look normal. At first, you do not notice them. They are not loud, they are not tense, they do not scan the room like someone searching. They blend in. Calm posture, easy movements. They look like they belong anywhere. That is how they stay invisible. The room is full of small signals. Most people are not aware they are sending them. The way someone stands near the wall instead of the center, the way someone avoids eye contact or holds it too long, the way a person laughs quickly, then looks around to see if it was okay. These signals float through the room quietly, like scent. The predator notices them. They do not rush, they do not guess, they watch. They let people move, they let patterns appear. Who apologizes too much, who fills silence, who listens more than they speak, who leans in when others lean back. The predator is not interested in stories. They are interested in openings. You can feel it in how they stand, balanced, still. They do not need to prove anything. They are not trying to impress. They are measuring, waiting, letting the room show its shape. Most people think predators look for weakness. That is not quite right. They look for access. They look for people who will engage, who will respond, who will adjust. A person can be strong and still be open. A person can be confident and still be predictable. The predator watches for movement, reaction, elasticity. When someone speaks and the room shifts toward them, the predator notices. When someone shares and others lean in, the predator notices. When someone offers help without being asked, the predator notices. These are not flaws, they are signals of availability. The predator does not feel rushed. Time is on their side. They let conversations happen. They let moments pass. They wait for repetition. One signal means nothing. A pattern means safety. You may notice how they position themselves. Not too close, not too far, always within reach, but never in the way. They let others cross the distance first. That matters. It tells them who will come forward on their own. No one in the room feels hunted. That is important. Predation here does not feel like danger. It feels like attention, like interest, like coincidence. The predator does not chase. They allow themselves to be chosen. And when they finally move, it looks natural, almost accidental. A shared glance, a small comment, a step closer. Nothing sudden, nothing sharp. Just the beginning of a connection that already feels familiar. The room does not change when they choose. Only one person does. And no one notices the moment when observation becomes focus. This is where Jung would begin to watch the signals people do not know they send. Not words, not intentions. The body speaks first. The posture, the distance, the way someone enters a room. These things come from the unconscious, and the predator knows how to read them. Some people carry themselves with weight. They take space without trying. Their movements are slow, grounded. Others move differently. Their body asks questions before their mind does. They adjust, they lean, they soften, they make room. Jung would say this is the psyche leaking outward. The predator feels this before they think it. They do not analyze, they sense. A slight tension in someone's shoulders, a habit of standing near exits, a way of watching others before acting. These are not weaknesses, they are signs of openness, of readiness to respond. Jung would say the unconscious is always communicating. Most people do not notice it, but predators live by it. They feel who will engage, who will adapt, who will carry emotional weight without being asked. This is not about fear, it is about availability. You can see it in small movements. Someone steps aside to let others pass. Someone mirrors posture without noticing. Someone stays attentive even when tired. These gestures come from deep patterns, learned early, repeated often. The predator recognizes them because they fit a familiar shape. Jung would also watch the predator's own shadow, the part of them that learned to survive by reading others. Often, this skill was born early, in homes where moods shifted, where attention meant safety. The predator learned to watch first, move second. Over time, this became instinct, so when they enter a room, they do not search, they wait. They let unconscious signals reveal themselves. They trust repetition. One movement means nothing, a pattern means permission. The predator does not need to test everyone. The room sorts itself. Some people remain distant, closed, still. Others lean forward, adjust, offer. These are the ones who glow softly to the predator's senses. Jung would say this is projection in motion. The predator senses in others what they themselves need: openness, responsiveness, emotional access. They move toward it without planning, like gravity. This is why the selection feels natural, almost kind. No pressure, no force, just alignment. Two unconscious patterns meeting, one that offers, one that takes. Jung would not call this evil, he would call it a meeting of shadows. One shadow that learned to adapt, one shadow that learned to receive. Together, they form a pattern that feels familiar to both. And that familiarity is what makes the first step so easy. This is where Nietzsche would watch strength and weakness without emotion, not to judge them, not to correct them, just to see how they move through the room. He would look at who stands firmly in themselves and who bends without being asked. Predators do not choose the weakest person, they choose the most workable one, the person who adjusts, the person who responds, the person whose energy moves outward instead of staying contained. Nietzsche would say this is not about morality, it is about force. Who carries their own weight and who invites others to carry it for them. Some people enter a room and remain unchanged. Their posture stays steady. Their attention does not chase approval. They do not rush to connect. They do not rush to explain. Their presence is quiet but firm. Predators notice them, but they do not approach. There is no gain there, no movement to work with. Others arrive already in motion. They lean in, they match tone, they offer warmth, they give attention easily, they are generous with focus and energy. Nietzsche would say these people are alive but exposed. Their strength flows outward, and anything that flows can be redirected. The predator watches for this, not consciously, not with a list. They feel it. They notice who stays whole and who opens automatically, who reacts before deciding, who fills silence, who softens first. These are not flaws, they are expressions of life. But life that spills too freely becomes easy to guide. Nietzsche would say the predator does not hate this vitality, they depend on it. They move toward it because it feeds them. They feel stronger when near it, more stable, more real. Not because they dominate, but because they attach themselves to a source. This is where choice happens. The predator does not select based on fear. They select based on elasticity. Who will stretch? Who will adapt? Who will make room? A rigid structure resists. A flexible one reshapes. Over time, the pattern repeats. The predator stays close to those who give energy without guarding it. Those people begin to slow down. Their brightness dims slightly. The predator stays steady. The balance shifts. Nietzsche would not call this evil. He would call it natural selection inside social life. Not survival of the strongest, but survival of the most adaptable to others. The predator survives by standing near strength and letting it flow toward them. This is why the choice feels quiet, calm, almost respectful. No pressure is needed. The room offers what is open. The predator simply accepts it. Nietzsche would say this is how power often works, not by force, by proximity to life. This is where Machiavelli would stop watching feelings and start counting results. He would not ask who the predator is or what they want. He would ask a simpler question. Who benefits after the choice is made? The predator's skill does not end with selection. It begins there. Once a target is chosen, the room starts to reorganize in small ways. Access increases, time opens up, attention flows more easily. None of this is demanded. It happens because the target adjusts. Machiavelli would notice that the predator rarely moves first. They let the chosen person come closer. They allow contact to repeat. They remain available but not exposed. This creates a structure where the predator gains influence without effort. The target offers it. Over time, the balance shifts. The target shares more, explains more, waits more. They start to consider the predator's presence when making decisions, not consciously, quietly. The predator becomes part of the environment, reliable, expected. This is how power grows without force. No threats, no pressure, just position. The predator now has access to information, emotion, and time. They know routines, habits, weak points. Not to attack, to maintain advantage. Machiavelli would say this is effective. Influence that costs nothing is the strongest kind. The predator does not risk exposure. They do not reveal intent. They simply stay where the flow already moves toward them. If the target pulls away, the predator does not chase. That matters. Chasing breaks the structure. Instead, the predator waits. Often, the target returns on their own. Guilt, habit, comfort. The structure pulls them back. This is the outcome Machiavelli watches for, a system that sustains itself, where the predator receives without asking and the target gives without noticing. Over time, the target feels drained. The predator remains steady. In work, this looks like responsibility shifting quietly. One person carries weight, another stays central. In family, it looks like emotional labor concentrating around one figure. In relationships, it looks like one person holding space while the other holds control. Machiavelli would not call this cruelty, he would call it positioning. The predator has placed themselves where others depend, and dependence, once formed, is hard to undo. This is why the predator chooses carefully. Not everyone will support this structure. Some people remain closed, others resist adjustment. The predator avoids them. Selection is about safety, not risk. By the time anyone notices the imbalance, it feels normal. The roles are set, the flow is established, and changing it would cost more than maintaining it. Machiavelli would say this is how power survives, quietly, repeatedly, through choices made long before anyone thinks of control, until the next observation.